Hello. Today I would like to make a video about armor. I've been experimenting, tinkering quite a lot, and there are quite a few things that I would like to show in this video. What is armor? How does it work? What is sacrificial armor? How to use it? What are the different materials? Which one to choose for your ship? And so on. This is a work in progress, so there's quite a few things that I haven't figured out, but I figured that there was enough content to make a video out of it. Without further ado, let me show you. So the first thing I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to be looking at the sacrificial armor. I'm going to show you what it is, how does it work, should you use it, and if so, how you should use it. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to present you the test bench. The test benches here, as you can see, have all of the weapons that are available to us. And in front of them, I've put a little slider. This slider possesses the sacrificial armor. Right behind the sacrificial armor, you will find some Ajatit 1224 blocks. I'm using them because they are extremely fragile. If anything goes through the sacrificial armor, they will break. Behind it, you've got a little bit more of those Ajatit blocks, and behind you've got propellant, so you do get a nice explosion if something were to fail. So I'm going to be shooting the sacrificial armor with all of the weapons and see if there is damage, and if there is damage, to what extent. So all of the test benches have got the same two buttons, the slide button and the shoot button. The slide button is there to allow you to place more sacrificial armor in front of the weapon, and the shoot button is there to allow you to shoot it. It's as simple as that. I'll spare you from all of the testing. There was a lot of it, and I very quickly discovered that there was more of it than I could possibly test. Which is why, although I do not have a definite conclusion, I do have some very interesting information to show you. So after a lot of testing, what I found out is that the best bang for your buck is in fact the 72 centimeter Corrodium decorative railing. Quite the mouthful. The reason being is that it is the only ship component that will absorb 100% of the damage of any given shot. You do, however, need to use it correctly, because the angle at which you can shoot it is extremely small. We're talking 5 degrees or less. Any more and the whole plate gets disintegrated. The reason for which you would prefer to use a decorative railing rather than a normal plate is because for the same length, the decorative railing is going to be 10% lighter. Doesn't sound much, but when you've got the whole front of a ship covered in it, makes quite the substantial difference. I also reached some very interesting results with 96 centimeters Oninum plate. It is, however, very heavy, although 50% of the time it does seem to be able to take 100% of 2 railgun shots. But it is very heavy for sacrificial armor. Just to make sure the nail is nicely driven home, here is Bastonium sacrificial armor that I have been using on some of my ships, and what happens when you attempt to cheap out on the materials used for sacrificial armor. As you can see, it is preventing the large propellant tank from instantly exploding with railgun, but it's not preventing the large propellant tank from being hit. So after all of this testing on the sacrificial armor, it raised all sorts of questions on the armor itself. What is armor? Just bottom line question, what exactly is armor? How does it work? How does the damage in Starbase work? And in order to get a conclusion on that question, I did a second test bench. By now, most players have already figured out that the bigger the plate, the more HP it's going to have, and the better the armor, the better it's going to resist. But that's not all there is to it. As a matter of fact, there's quite a lot more going on. The way this test bench works is I've got different 432 plates of different materials, namely corium, thallium, oninum, plutonium, exorium, and nephrite. Above all of these plates, I've got laser cannons. They will be punching holes through all of these plates in order to get the HP of the plates down to 0. Because what I figured out is that once the HP of the plates are 0, the plates still have a resistance, and this is what I'm going to be demonstrating here. The laser cannons on this test have got a timer, so they'll shoot until they go through all of these plates. Predictably, More armor means more shots to go through. But once those plates get down to 0, interesting things happen. I'll be comparing Exorium and Plutonium right now because they've got the same armor value. This makes comparisons between the two of them very easy. I'll also be using lasers since quantifying the damage with them is very easy. Here, as you can see, the Plutonium plate needed 3 shots to be cut in half. And here, the Exorium needed 14 shots before the plate was cut in half. The Nav fleet also did only need 3 shots, although when you look at the damage it's more like 2.1 rather than 3. Now, although the railguns did more damage, the proportions remained roughly the same. The Oninum turned out to be the more resistant, with 17 shots required to cut the plate in 2. Unsurprisingly, the Oninum is also the one which proved the most resistant to the railgun. Having done quite a lot of testing with the weapons, combat testing and so on, it seems that the weapons are in fact 3 different families. The autocannon is not very precise and kinda does these big holes, but it really battles to go through armor. Laser is very precise and is honestly quite up like a good all-rounder. Plasma and railgun are the 3rd family. They do the same type of damage and they do the same amount of damage to whatever is being hit. However, the railgun is going to be able to go through more plates and hit more stuff with that one round, and it's also more precise than the plasma. As a side note, there's obviously way more going on with weapons, such as the fire rate, the amount of power they need, the price of the weapon if you want to use it on the live. Those are separate topics that I'll be addressing in future videos maybe, but for now I'm just keeping it simple. So what I wanted to show here is that density is in fact good. You don't always want lighter armor. As a matter of fact, heavier armor has got a much better chance. So the best of the best is obviously heavy plus armor, but you can't always handle the extra weight. What I possibly will do in the future is that I'll create a big Excel sheet with all of the different values to try and work out like what's the best armor for the best need, but this is completely out of the scope of this video so far. Another thing that I really wanted to test was to make sure that all of the damage that was made inside of the ship designer, such as you see right now, was in fact the exact same on the live. So I designed this ship. As you can see right now I'm in the ship designer, so it's not much work. But what I really wanted to make sure is that whatever tests I was doing here were in fact valid. So I tested this ship on the PTU, and so far it seems like the damage that was done outside of the safe zones, outside of the ship designer, were extremely consistent. I did not see any discrepancies. Something else that I wanted to test was the decorative armor type. So in this scenario, I've got the 48 by 48 by 96 centimeter plates, and I wanted to test their resistance with lasers and railguns. What it seems to be is that it's very good against railguns as sacrificial armor, although they do need to be oriented correctly if you do not want to use some very dense materials. The advantage of these plates seems to be that the damage is very localized. So although they do have less HP than much bigger plates, they're still fully able of taking a railgun hit if oriented properly, and thus limit the amount of damage that is inflicted on the ship. On the next test, what I wanted to make sure of is that I was using the right armor for some of my ships. On my ships, before this test, I was using two 432 plates of Bastonium armor, and I tested it against one plate of 432 Exutium. This is because they've got the exact same weight. So what this shows here is that the Exutium plate was able to stop 100% of the railgun shot. And in comparison, the two Bastonium plates were not, because the Achatit plates behind it are broken. This means damage has been going through. Now, as you can guess, I've actually been updating my ship since. I've also been testing different combinations. Can I do some composite armor, which is when you start mixing different materials? What is the best armor for its weight that I can have is what I've been trying to find out. I don't have a definite answer, although I do encourage you to use this specific test bench. You just change the materials around to help you find out which suits your own needs best. Out of all of the materials, Oninum had the most interesting result. This is because it was the only plate that was able to not break when shot by a railgun. Although, by shooting it with a laser right after, I could determine that it was in fact barely. I also tested the biggest plate that we've got in the game, put Oninum on it, and could see that it takes obviously way more damage. This concludes my video. Thanks a lot for watching it. All of the blueprints of all of the test benches that you have seen in this video will be in the description. You can download them. There is a lot that I was not able to test in this video that I'd like to do in the future, so stay tuned. Thanks again for watching, and bye bye.